Well, the year's over, so let's talk about it. What up, viewers? What up? What up? Welcome to the Friend Zone. I am Calc Soups, and this is a monthly video game review show where I talk about the latest games with my friends. This time we will be talking this month, or this time we will be talking about we'll be reviewing games from 2021. Just talking about kind of what the year was like, and then going into some of our favorites. So, without further ado, let's jump in and meet everyone. So, I'd like to introduce Brian.
Hello. My name is Brian. I don't play a lot of games, but I'm excited to talk about the ones I did.
That's as long as you played some. That's really the prerequisite. We got
Great.
Kevin.
Hi, my name's Kevin, and my perception of time is dubious at best.
Yeah, something that'll really come in handy when we're trying to talk about an entire year.
It's it's gonna be great.
Last but not least, we got Patrick.
Hey there, I'm Patrick. I like games and I love chatting about them. Let's do it.
Great. So, just wanted to do some broad strokes at the beginning. 2021, I think, was really where we felt the ramifications of COVID-19 and its effects on the video game process. I think a lot of games COVID happened early 2020. I think most of the games that were released in 2020 kind of limped out and were able to get out before that. But 2021 is kind of where like any games that were kind of and the last legs of being built got delayed as everybody kind of went to a work from home. Were there any big delays that you kind of had to wait for, or what do you think about kind of 2021 as the year of delays?
I mean, it hurt at first, but like Elder Ring.
Yeah, there's a small indie game that most people don't know about and aren't looking forward to called EldenRing that
yes,
got
absolutely.
pushed back into this year. So it's basically the event that my entire life is scheduled around at the moment is Elden Ring releasing. So
right.
Yeah, I mean that was going to be late in the year.
Excited for that one. Yeah, so it wasn't that dire of a pushback, but it was originally like October, I think, was its original release date.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm trying to think of like I'm not trying to chronicle all the delays, but like Cyberpunk came out, or no, Cyberpunk had limped out in 2019. Yeah, I've been kind of waiting for Dying Light for a long time, but I think they kind of did the right approach where like, and it was even scheduled for December as of like October. So, but they kind of did the like, hey, you haven't heard much from us. Hold on, we'll let you know. And then they just kind of like went dark. They're like, let's go, give us some time to let you know when we're ready, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, but
definitely looking forward to that one. But
yeah,
in general, when I hear a game is delayed, it doesn't bother me. I'm happy because that means they're gonna make it what it needs to be.
Ideally, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't get mad about that because I'm like, okay, hopefully I get a better game at the end here.
Yeah, seriously.
I wish more games would. I feel like it's sort of in vogue to release games and fix them during the first couple months of their release.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes even in the AAA space these days, I feel like that's become kind of more common practice. And so, I'm never mad for games to get more time in the oven and hopefully be a more complete product when we get them.
Well, particularly with the whole like day one patch kind of situation where they can just poop out like a half-built game and then have everyone have to patch it on the first day before they can play it.
Oh, yeah, that's basically industry standard at this point.
Yeah, it's like why can't anyone just like make a finished game and then give us the finished game? Why do they have to like they basically give us an IKEA furniture, but then also a big roll of duct tape at the same time, saying we're going to tell you how to use the duct tape on this IKEA furniture when you try to open the box, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, games are
Well,
hard, and it's even harder
yeah,
when you have publishers that are crazy demanding.
Sure.
I totally get that.
yeah, absolutely.
Got to make
I
those
can't even.
quarterlies.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in the AAA space, I just can't even. You know, I get it. Games are hard. It's a it's a miracle that games get made at all. So,
Yeah.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. To circle back to delays, I feel in 2019 or 20, we got a whole bunch of announcements of like games coming out for the PS5 that were gonna, be big titles, and then I didn't hear anything about them until like sometimes not even at all. You know,
there was a lot of
so it's like oh, here's a new Horizon game, and then I didn't hear anything about it for like 2 years, and then like, aha, joke's on you! It comes out like next month. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Well, I think that's been another practice. Is like I think a lot of marketing teams have figured out that it's better to just keep their mouths shut until there's like actually something to market.
Yeah. I also think Sony. I think Xbox just as guilty of it as Sony. But Sony's like launch lineup was pretty deceptive for the PS5, where it was like you're gonna get
Yeah, fair
Ratchet and
enough.
Clank and God of War and Horizon, and it was like, and then you got Demon Souls and Spider-Man 1.5.
If you looked at like the announcement trailer for the PS5, like, oh my god, this is the most stacked launch lineup I've ever seen. And then you look at like 3/4 of the games, like, oh, these games don't come out for 2 years.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
I mean, I don't want to put words in their mouth. I don't remember what exactly was promised at launch. Because just because they're like, this is what's coming to PS5, I can't remember what they said was going to be a launch title.
Yeah, I don't think they necessarily announced most of those as launch titles. Just like things
to look forward to.
Some of the more ambitious marketing campaigns might have been like, this is what to look forward to in the first year of PS5, and even that might have been a little too ambitious. But
and then we didn't get, speaking of delays, we didn't get Halo until end of last year, when I guarantee you Microsoft wanted that to be a Series X launch title. So
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then it still ended up being not really it's not complete.
A game. Yeah.
It didn't launch complete. It's still not complete because like I just don't see there's not an excuse to not launch with co-op when that's been standard for every Halo game.
Yeah,
that's pretty wild that didn't
and like I think that might also be affected by COVID and all that, but still it's just like crazy to me.
But yeah, I know, first Halo game to not launch with co-op.
Yeah, seriously. Cool. And then another kind of just trend, and I think that goes to like some of the games that we played last year, was I'm feeling a lot of like AAA fatigue. Like people are just getting really tired of getting the same cookie cutter game every year. Like I think even last week I'm starting to read articles about just like Ubisoft game, and they're just like using that as like a noun of like just every Ubisoft game is just an Ubisoft game.
I mean, to be fair, Ubisoft has leaned so much. Yeah, open world, some kind of tower you can capture to reveal the map, which I know like Breath of the Wild and stuff has done too, but it was very Assassin's Creed. And Ubisoft is sort of its own genre of game in a weird way. And I definitely see where that came from.
Yeah. So like, and with like with Far Cry, I think I heard it most with like Far Cry 6, which is like, okay, people are getting tired of the Far Cry formula. The latest Call of Duty just kind of shit the bed because the campaign was worthless. Not that the campaigns have been integral to the game for a long time, but I feel like people are getting kind of tired of this AAA kind of treadmill.
Yeah, well, I think there were a lot of things that went into that this year. I mean, one of the things that is definitely a factor outside of even that, because AAA studios, it's like a large movie studio or anything, they have to, by the nature of their size, be sort of risk averse. They have to lean on unknown quantities and, like Patrick said earlier, hit those quarterly returns for investors and that kind of thing. that's their fiduciary responsibility. Is most of them are publicly traded companies.
Yeah.
So that's fair enough, but we find ourselves in the bit of a labor movement here, and a lot of the the video game industry is still largely ununionized, still largely a lot of kind of abusive workplace practices.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that those got a bit more examination this year. I think there's still a long road ahead of that, but that I don't know personally. That sort of colored some of my willingness to buy from at least certain AAA companies as well.
What I think is so interesting is like in the past few years, so this is a trend that's popped up, is because of social media and sort of different movements and such, we're paying attention more to the developers and to the people who actually make the game, and so we glob on to who we like as a person who creates the game, not so much as a studio, right? So it's like if that person leaves the studio, we'll follow them as a person, not necessarily the company that they worked for that made the game that we like.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at like the Halo guys left Bungie, or they did Destiny, right? Some sort of correlation there.
Bungie
left. Yeah.
Departnered with Microsoft and made Destiny.
Exactly. So like we're going that way. You see the same way with like authors who work for different like comic book companies. Sure. Right, we're following the people who are writing stories that we like, rather than just like the company that we like to follow.
Yeah.
I mean, it sort of ties into this like the way that video game labor is handled, where everybody's a contractor for the most part. Even like these lead developers, they're bouncing from job to job so rapidly. It's the Ken Levine problem or whatever with Bioshock.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, they finish Infinite, it sells great, and then he leaves, and the company's like, oh, well, we don't think you can do it without him, so everyone's fired.
Bye.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, did Amy Hennig go to Stadia to like run a studio for Stadia, and then Stadia like just freaking shit cans all of their development studios or something because they launched without any games.
Yeah, I mean it's
basically.
To be fair, I totally forgot Stadia was a thing. Is this still a thing?
You and everyone else.
Yeah.
Is it like the end gauge of the new generation?
I mean, it's just like it's the Google Glass of video games.
Yeah, basically. That's an apt comparison.
Yeah. Big investment up front. Didn't have much to do after that, and then kind of let it go. But there's a laundry list of Google graveyard stuff. So
totally.
But the AAA fatigue, I think, has kind of led some of the kind of core gamers, or at least in our friend group, to lean more towards indie games. And I just paid attention more to like to kind of the indie space last year, and that'll go into like a couple of the big games, Valheim, even going back to 2020 with like Among Us or Fall Guys.
Well, it comes down, for me, it comes down to like, time played, correlates to enjoyment had, right?
Sure.
Where it's like, if I'm going to pay $70 for this big AAA game, where I'm going to get like 3 hours out of it's so broken, I get 3 hours of fun out of it. And it's like, that's not worth my time. But if I, spend $10 for this indie game or $20 on this indie game, and I get all this time out of it with my friends, even though it's a different kind of maybe the graphics aren't as like super intense or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that's better. It's better for me. That's where my money is better spent.
I mean, theoretically, you could play an Ubisoft game for 1,000 hours,
right?
But
theoretically,
exactly. But you're not going to. You're going to stop enjoying it after 10.
One of the more interesting things I heard about Assassin's Creed Valhalla was that one of the biggest complaints I heard from people was that the game is too long. Which is an interesting
that's my complaint with pretty much every one of their games at this point.
Yeah, it's like there's just so much padding, and like people don't, I think there's still obviously a fan base that enjoys that kind of game, but I think a lot of people are like, this is not a good use of my time anymore.
Particularly when it's doing things like collecting BS around a map, like that's not
nuts and bolts or something.
Yeah.
All going back to Assassin's Creed 1.
There you go.
Shudder when I think about the flags.
Oh my god, those flags!
Every level has 100 flags. You have to
Yeah, and for some reason, I'm less mad at Breath of the Wild for doing Korok seeds, even though.
At least it was fun to find those.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Korok seeds were fun. Like they were all fun little puzzles and
Little
stuff. I
puzzles.
guess instead of just like
And they
picking
give
shit
you
up off the ground.
they give you a big poop at the end.
And yeah, they give you a golden poop, which is hilarious.
Also, it didn't tell you where to go. You had to kind of, if you
Yeah,
wanted
and-
them, you had to kind of find them yourself, which made it.
That's
Right, it was
true.
like a riddle, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it felt that's true. There was a lot of factors that made that a bit more enjoyable. It felt less like just
A laundry list,
doing
yeah.
a shopping list. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I think a lot of this stuff, what I wanted to say earlier was, I feel like a lot of this speaks not only to COVID difficulties and stuff, but like the ascendancy of the indie space and everything, and the sort of auteur driven way that some video games are starting to be run. It speaks to just video games developing as an industry and an art form. You can draw a lot of parallels to how the film industry developed,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we're seeing now like a lot of what happens at large film studios and stuff versus the indie film scene, where it's like you can get there's still good stuff coming out of big studios. You can find something to enjoy there, but especially for connoisseurs of the medium, for people that want to see new innovative things, like the indie space is where those risks are going to be taken and are allowed and are like capable of being taken.
Absolutely.
And I think that's just part of the medium maturing in a way.
Yeah.
So like what I think is when it comes to AAA games or AAA movies, like those things are made to sell, to make money, to sell games, to make money, put butts in seats, right? Whereas if you get down beyond the money, and you get down to people who are making stuff on shoestring budgets, they're doing it because there's passion behind it. Not saying there's not passion at higher levels, but like some of the bigger games the past several years have been super tiny games that like a handful of people make.
Right. Well, I mean, to sort of refine that, it's like I think with the bigger AAA games, there's too many passions like coming together, and maybe conflicting with each other, and then that all has to be diluted through a money machine at some point.
Yeah.
Where it's like indie teams are just generally smaller, so there's just like a clear directive of what the game's supposed to be.
Yeah, I don't think easier for one person to wrangle a creative vision out of a small team like that, I think.
Yes.
Yeah,
especially when they don't have to report to corporate interests.
So like I think about games like some big games like Cuphead, right, which is a smaller team, or like Super Meat Boy, which is I think like two guys or something. Like those are some of the biggest titles of the past decade.
Yeah, well, one of the things I think about is Hades too, which
absolutely.
one of the darlings of the indie space. Supergiant is almost getting. I mean, especially with Hades, they're almost more of a medium tier studio at this point than a small indie dev at this point. But that's another example of just like a really like artistically done, like clearly a close knit collaborative team expressing like a really good vision.
I actually don't give too much credit to like the named like the Ken Levine at the top necessarily, because like Patrick's saying, like these teams are huge. Like I doubt that this one person can like manage 200 people's time to fully execute on their vision or whatever. So
yeah, and I think that's part of being and especially any problems that you have with a director. Like films are collaborative media, games are collaborative media, and any challenges that you have with like a film director would face with controlling every aspect of their film are a degree of magnitude harder with games. I think games are an even more collaborative artistic medium than film in a lot of ways. And yeah, it's just, I mean, there's so many artists that have a hand in your average video game, or it's a labor of love by a few people over, they devote like 10 years of their life to it.
And I'll say that this will be the last thing I say about this, but like I think people, just as a general, as a species, are getting kind of tired of being sold to. Right, we're tired of like being inundated with ads all the time, and so when it comes to like we can recognize when movies are just there for us or games are just there to make money, just to get us into our wallets, and so we as the consumer least I do, appreciate it when a little bit of that has a little more care to it. Like, oh no, this you might actually enjoy this. This is much more artistic. This is what I like.
And the indie space is reverted back to like word of mouth, and it's like, you know, all of a sudden we'll hear about this game, like someone will post a random game in Discord and be like, oh crap, this is $10, and like we're gonna get a weekend's worth of time out of it, and you know, no one's heard of it yet, and it's just kind of fun, and you don't have this $200 million budget showing Call of Duty ads to you constantly every time you watch YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just for me, it's like going to the store and buying like Avengers poster from that big poster rack at the store to make art, to have art, or going to like Etsy to buy like a cool piece of art from Etsy. That,
sure.
You know, hopefully you're giving them more than $10, whatever. But like,
yeah.
So that way, you know, it's that kind of duality.
Yeah.
They're both art, but one is there to be sold, one is there because it's art, kind of thing. Yeah.
Sure.
I'm not going to get in the conversation of what is art. That's not what we're here for.
We are definitely not here for that.
We don't need to go down that.
Breezing past that. So as we said, let's just kind of remind ourselves. So kind of went through, Q1 was pretty empty back in 2021. I think it was a lot of games being brought forward. I enjoyed the Medium a lot. That was Xbox exclusive back in January, but other than that, like even our friend zone games were like Disco Elysium and Outer Wilds, is like, you know, getting around to those games.
Basically, someone in our group's favorite game that they wanted to force everybody to play because they wanted people to talk about it with.
Yeah, no, and I mean, also, if there was a big game coming out at that time, that might have been pushed or delayed or something. So it shows kind of how empty the first kind of quarter was. Then, like we were talking about earlier, April was pretty stacked at the beginning. We ended up playing Outriders basically from April 1st to April 30th, and then never again. But
accurate.
Yeah, but it was kind of the game that we played all of April especially since that was our friend zone game for April. We also had Returnal and Resident Evil. I think it came out like a week after that, which are both kind of like that horror vein. Yeah, and then I think Psychonauts was a Q3, but I'm trying to think of like even.
I think so.
I think May or June. I mean, summer's always pretty empty in the game space, so wouldn't expect too much out of that. And then we had Psychonauts 2 and Tribes of Midgard in Q3.
When did Deathloop come out?
Deathloop was November. I think that was Q4. It was like
somewhere in there.
Yeah, Back 4 Blood and Deathloop, and then, you know, your shooter of choice. And then that was kind of 2021, right. Or at least for the big flagpole games.
We had a lot of remasters. You know, we had the Control remaster that came out this year.
Yes.
Right.
You know, I mean, it was kind of a big year for remasters. I don't think a lot of us played it, but there was a Neo remaster.
Yep.
That,
Alan Wake.
Those were both early. Yeah, Alan Wake came out this year.
And Q4.
The remaster of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I know some of, you know, like technically Disco Elysium, the final cut came out in March, so that was technically this year game.
Yeah.
Same. We have now Outer Wilds
remaster, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, technically a remaster.
Or a relaunch.
Yeah, we didn't talk about it. We talked about it before it came out, but there was an Outer Wilds DLC this year.
Yeah.
So there's that.
I think that's how companies fill the gaps between big flagpoles, is sometimes a lot of them remaster it, or I hope the remaster is what led to kind of Respawn, right? Kind of getting kind of getting their footing, and then being able to like kind of build, like get the Alan Wake remaster up and running, and then kind of build out that whole universe, because it's something we're potentially looking forward to in future years. I don't know if it's 22 or not, but like Control. Did they talk about Control 2?
Give me Control 2.
Yeah, there you
I
go.
want Control 2.
Yeah.
Well, we got Alan Wake 2 coming before that, at least.
Yes.
There's another something in Control coming, like a.
Yeah.
Ooh,
and
they haven't what it was like an expansion pack or something.
Yeah, they haven't given a lot of details on that, but there's more Control content coming. So.
Yeah, and then the Alan Wake 2 was just announced at Game Awards.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Should be good. I don't know if anybody
full
played
survival horror, which is awesome.
We might eventually do when Halo is co-op. We might eventually do a friend zone on that. But that
I'd love to play some Halo co-op.
But
that'd be great.
But the game did launch, but is not, as we said, fully out. So, But yeah, that's kind of the my initial rundown. So let's start this off, Brian. What was the favorite game, or what game did you want to bring to the table as your favorite in 2021?
First game I'll bring to this table, which I've been looking forward to for a while, to kind of go against what we said about indie games, but I'm bringing Metroid Dread to the table.
Yes.
As my favorite game of 2021.
Nice.
I'm a big fan of Metroidvania games. Metroid Prime is like my favorite game, one of my favorite game series, and I'm excited to go back to the 2D side-scrolly kind of Metroid situation. Just because I didn't play a lot of the ones that came out on the handheld because I didn't have any of those handhelds, so I haven't played a Metroid game like that since like Super Metroid. So I was very excited to get back into that. And I tell you what, they knocked it out of the park because it was everything that I wanted it to be, and a little more. Because the whole sections when you're trying to hide and run from these robots is terrifying.
Yeah.
And every robot's different, and they had a whole different level of like tenseness. And I haven't like shaken from a game in a really long time, but I was like shaking every time I was going into one of those enemy zones because it was just so tense.
Yeah.
And I think it was a great game. I think it knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, I remember reading about it. Like, it was the first 2D Metroid on console in like a decade, and like the first new Metroid game in like several years. So I knew that like Metroid fans would gobble it up, and yeah, that's kind of what I knew about it going in.
And it had everything that you would want from a Metroid game. They had, little secrets, and obviously you unlocked more things that led you to other areas. But the nice thing about it was also kind of they didn't, holding your hand isn't the right term or phrase, but you didn't get lost. Like I didn't have to like figure out, I got this new thing, where do I use it? There was a natural progression of the map that led you to a new area. So it's like. So you never felt lost. You always knew that there was forward momentum in the game, which is nice in those sort of large, sprawling map games.
Yeah.
That's what I got. That's number one for me.
Yeah,
I do want to check it out.
Yeah, it's definitely on my list.
Yeah, that's one I have not. It's been hovering on my list for a while. I just have not actually bought a lot of games on Switch lately.
Yeah, my issue with it is that it's like with a game like that, it's like never gonna go on sale.
Yep.
Basically.
Nintendo.
Yeah, and so it's like I'm like, so like even just waiting to play it doesn't really get me anything.
Yeah.
I'll pass around my copy. I have a hard copy of it.
Oh, you have a hard copy. Well,
I'll pass it.
Old school.
My one gripe with the game,
sure.
And this is like the one gripe, is the button mapping is a little not unintuitive, and you can't change it.
Interesting. No button remapping.
That was my main gripe, because I would really like, there's like an aiming portion where you can like, I really like to be on like the trigger, but it was on like the bumper because the trigger was doing something else, and you couldn't remap what the buttons did. And that's my main and only gripe with the game, is
fair enough.
You had to like kind of put your fingers in these sort of unnatural positions in order to do what you want to do. But that's only because we've been trained through other games to, if I want to like, to aim somewhere, I gotta press the left trigger to pull the right trigger.
Nintendo has proven on a few occasions that they don't care where I want my fingers to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
exactly. So that's my only real gripe with the game.
I'm trying to think of, are there other Nintendo games that do allow you to button map, and also button mapping, not allowing button mapping in your game in the year of our Lord 2022 is one of, it's a pretty big sin. But
yeah, first party wise, I don't know. I guess I haven't tried to remap a lot of the Nintendo games I've played.
Yeah.
Nintendo's trying to be the Apple.
There's no reason to not allow it though, just for like accessibility. You know,
it's like some people some people can't flex their hands in certain ways, and it's cool to just make your game more accessible by letting them tweak it so they can play it.
I will also say though that this is the first, and I think maybe only game that I think is better on the seated on the television than in handheld form.
Oh, interesting.
On the Switch, I played the entire thing on the television. I didn't play it all handheld. Undocked, and I liked it better on the television.
Yeah, counterpoint: Smash Brothers is still way better on the TV.
Oh,
yeah.
You're right.
I think most Switch games are better on the TV. To be honest,
some of them are perfectly serviceable in handheld, but usually, given the choice, I will do TV if I can.
I appreciate that I can do handheld or something, but like, with the exception of maybe like Animal Crossing, most of the time I'd rather play on a TV with like the Pro controller, because I think holding the Switch sucks. Like
it's not very ergonomic. Especially for me, I got these big meaty hands. Like my hands
I think it's kind of heavy.
Switch for a long session, I need to have it rested on my knee or something if I'm playing it for a long time, or I'm constantly changing positions to like.
Or you have to spend all the money to get like a big like thing that has like handles on it.
Accessory.
Yeah, like a third party accessory that Nintendo somehow made void your warranty for using this.
Cool. Kevin, do you want to go next with your game of the year?
It's kind of a near thing for me. But I think that, first of all, I have to start this by saying there was an Outer Wilds DLC this year. While the game itself didn't come out, the DLC is superb, and if you liked Outer Wilds at all, you should play it, and that's all I'm going to say.
Cool.
It has some more kind of horror elements to it, which is fun. There's some jump scares and stuff, so you've been warned. The other thing I have to say before I really get to it is, have you heard of the critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV? Because with an expanded free trial, you can play entirely through the entirety of A Realm Reborn and the award-winning Heavensward expansion up to level 60 for free with no restrictions on playtime.
Not sponsored.
Can you still do that though? Are they allowing that again?
I don't know. It depends on if they're letting you buy the game again, because the game was so freaking good they had to stop selling it.
The servers were exploding.
They sold out of a game that is digital.
Even if you don't give a shit about MMOs, play Final Fantasy XIV as a solo JRPG and you will enjoy it. The story is one of the best stories I've played in a game in a long time, especially as it culminates in Endwalker this year, and it was really, really good. Highly recommend.
Very, very good.
To further your point, Kev, I'm not an MMORPG guy, but I have over 400 hours in Final Fantasy XIV. So that's just a you know, all you guys are like, I don't like MMOs. Like, I don't either, but I put in 400 hours in this game, and it's a great time.
It's you can play it as like a solo JRPG, and it's one of the best stories. Like it's right up there with like Persona 5 or it's Final Fantasy kin for like best story I've played in an RPG, like in a JRPG. So check it out if you can stomach some of the MMO-y stuff. You'll fall in love.
You got to ease into it for sure.
Yeah, it's a slow burn. It takes it a while, but the game just gets progressively better as you get through it, and you'll fall in love with these characters in this story. It's phenomenal.
Except for Alphino, his dumb little ties.
Oh, Alphino's my precious boy. Don't even talk about him.
He gets better.
He gets so much better.
Okay.
My precious boy. Yeah, but that's like I won't gush about that too much, but those are great. Those games, while they got those two are great, but those games technically weren't released this year, even if I would call Endwalker a game released in its own right, realistically. So that said, setting my love for those two aside, my favorite new release this year was Psychonauts.
Nice.
Okay. I adored Psychonauts. I thought aspects of it weren't perfect, but it was one of the most cohesive artistic visions I've seen in a video game. I thought it was thoughtful in a way that a lot of higher profile games are not anymore. I thought it was earnest in a way that I haven't seen in especially like a platformer game in a long time. I love Raz, and it was great to spend more time with him.
You said when we did Friends over this, you said you went back to play the first one before and or after playing through Psychonauts 2?
No, it made me want to. I still haven't gone back. I did play through it a couple of years ago, though.
Okay.
So it was still fairly fresh in my mind. But yeah, just the level design in that game is so creative.
Yeah, it's the artistic vision the game's beautiful and like the
also
story.
It's fucking criminal how much it got snubbed at the big game award shows this year. That made me angry. So
yeah, I was happy to review that with you, and yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I was coming in fresh, but it has a good, like, the first 5 minutes of the game are just catching you up in case you forgot over the 10-year development time or or never played the first one. But yeah, it was a really unique and well designed platformer.
Nice. That's still on my to play list as well because I do like the first Psychonauts a lot.
If you like the first one, it's worth a play. It might not be your favorite thing, but man, I really loved it.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll enjoy it.
Well, great. Patrick, do you want to tell us about your favorite, most played, whatever criteria you have for bringing a game to the table?
Yes. There was a lot of games I really liked this year. Definitely the Final Fantasy 14 expansion. I've already sunk a lot of time into that. It's lovely. I really enjoyed the Mario Golf Super Rush that came out.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of like the Mario Golf games, and I think arcade golf is just like one of the most fun like time killers. Like especially when I'm like on a plane or something. Like it's just it's really easy to sink my brain into that kind of game. So I really enjoyed that one. I really dug Back for Blood. I think people.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a mixed reaction there. I think there's a lot of like Left 4 Dead diehards, which I would consider myself, but there's a lot of them that just didn't like it for whatever reason. I thought it was excellent. I still want to play more of it.
Let me know. I'll hop on you want to play. Still haven't installed.
I think it's just fun. I thought the levels were really diverse and interesting. I like the characters. There's not really much of a story. They haven't really improved much in the story department, but that's okay. Like I just had a good time playing that with you guys.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately my favorite game of 2021 was Resident Evil 8 Village.
Great.
Like I just think that it did everything I was hoping it would do plus a little more. It gave me like the slow burn spookies, the dread, and then it gave me plenty of action still. And just like design wise, that whole area that you're in, the village and then the castle and beyond, I was constantly like excited every time I got to a new area or like got a new unlock or something. And it's like I've always loved Resident Evil, but I love Resident Evil 7 and I love Resident Evil 8. I love what they're doing with it. I don't care about Ethan very much. I think he's a really boring character. But I like what I get to play. I like the experience of it.
Yeah. I mean, also another one of our friends' own games, so we've talked about it in length. But yeah, I actually liked it picking up on 7 because 7, having played a limited number of Resident Evil, 7 was my favorite, or at least what had colored my Resident Evil experience, and so getting more of that was awesome. And yeah, I think Lady Dimitrescu obviously took over the internet for forever.
Yep. I think she's still in control in some circles.
Yeah, they've got to bring her back. Yeah. If there's a Resident Evil 9, and they've got to like somehow reintegrate her.
I can't wait for them to do something really stupid with her in the next game.
Talk about an instantly iconic character. Like I didn't even play the game, and I knew who she was, what she was about, and like that's like a poster person.
The whole internet turned into that Tormund meme from Game of Thrones, and we're here for the big woman.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, overall the game was just great. Like great performances in the VO and mocap department.
Glad Maggie Robertson got the award.
Yeah, well earned. Just like a all around great time. I really felt like I was like living through a fun like horror movie, and that's exactly what I want from that.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. So, but yeah, that was a really good experience, and yeah, I think you slowly develop that like Resident Evil itch, and so getting to release that once every couple of years is awesome.
Yeah.
Great. So the one I'm going to with the hopes that I know what my number 2 is going to be, with the hopes that we'll get to a number 2, I do want to put number 1 at the top of my list would be Wildermyth.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed Wildermyth.
Yeah. I really like the random story generation that they have in the game, and like the character creation and like the creating of a party is all pretty normal. They're like class system is somewhat deep, but leaves a little bit to want, leaves you wanting a little bit. But mostly and I think this is the game I played the most this year, because I just spent like my summer weekends just like playing this, or like on like my lunches during work just playing like an hour of it, because the random story generation in this is like as close to a D&D campaign as like a lot of games have, as most games have come to the pass. Like
it's pretty fun. It's pretty it's amazing how much variation they baked into that system.
Yeah, and like there's legacy mechanics, so like there's multiple you can play through like multiple campaigns, and you really like get to know the characters, and like their comic book art panel style like really works. The 2D like paper characters moving on the grid, I think people could say one way or the other. I enjoyed it. Just like having your 2D character kind of moving around, and then and just collecting items and doing random shit. Like, do I really want to like take this magic sword from the tomb of this the world's greatest protector? And it's like, what are the ramifications of that? So yeah, I think that was probably the game that I put the most time into, and as close to a D&D like experience in an RPG that I've gotten in quite some time, especially in a year where like Baldur's Gate 3 and a couple of other big RPGs came out. Like this,
came out. I also have a. I wanted to. We can finish. I wanted to talk to you guys about what games came out in early access this year that you're most excited to actually see a full release.
Oh yeah, I just kind of want to speak to Wildermyth for a second, real quick.
Yeah, please.
I do think that game is like really fascinating and really well done. Like the systems are so intricate and everything's clearly very well thought out. But when I sunk some time into it, I just quickly hit this point where I was just like, this, because it's like randomly generated.
Mm-hmm.
I was very like, I don't know, there was like this thing in the back of my mind where I'm not being told a story here. I'm not like.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what that was, because like I do think that game is like really incredible at what it does.
Yeah.
And like just the little things of like the relationships that can be forged between your characters, and like the way that they'll talk to each other, and like it's all so interesting. But I don't know, there was just something about like, okay, but this is just an algorithm.
Yeah.
creating a story for me. I was like, I couldn't get past it.
Patrick, you say that, and I experienced kind of the same thing. I really liked the game. Again, I can't understate. I think it's incredibly well made, and like props to the team because they pulled something really cool off with it. There was something about it that just made it a little harder for me to engage with the stories that were being made. Even though I think that they were interesting and stuff. I don't know. It's like I don't fault the game for that at all. I think it's something with the way that I engaged with it that just I had a little disconnect.
Exactly.
And
Same.
that
It was just
probably
like
is what kept it off of my like favorite games of the year list, frankly.
Yeah. Because I'm constantly like trying to like, I don't know, like I write, so I'm looking at like stories and like how I'm looking at construction and like subtext, like what are they really trying to say with this and stuff. And so like I couldn't do any of that because I knew nobody wrote it, you know, like. And so I was just kind of like, oh, so it's not really saying anything. It's just like it's just game, which is great and totally fine, no problem with that whatsoever. But it was like, here's just game, but story is just game. And I was like, but what? I I don't know. There was just like a weird thing there. But I do think the game is really incredible.
Yeah. I never got like that kind of like disillusionment behind the randomness of it. Yeah, like I don't know. Sometimes it would like you. Sometimes I did find myself questioning of like, is this a randomly generated story beat, or like have I reached a certain part in the campaign where like now they're gonna feed me a story beat and I have to make a couple of decisions about like who to send or whatever.
I would love to see like the math behind that game. Like, what's really happening in there?
Yeah, because like the actual like trees, like the logic trees that form as your God, it has to just be so intricate.
Yeah.
Well, and then like I think on like my second or third campaign, I was like trying to I was save scumming and re-rolling to try and like, oh, I made a character choice that I didn't think felt right, so I wanted to go back, and then I would like get random story beat, and it was like, or random non-story beat, and I'm like, okay, now I have to like save scum through just to get the same story beat again, and then made the other decision. So like I kind of broke it. I kind of like broke it open. Or if I knew a story beat was coming up and I wanted to make my OP character to get that one, to get that, like, oh, it'd be really great if I could get my crystal character to like, turn into a rock monster or something, like. And that was another thing too, was the transformation of the characters. I thought was like really cool, and like something
very cool. Yeah.
Like I kind of like that, of like detaching myself of like, hey, it's kind of cool to let your character do this random thing, like my character turns blue or starts growing wings or something, and like it was all.
It's also like the amount of stuff that the characters can go through, especially if you take them into multiple campaigns and stuff.
Yes.
Is really it's a lot.
Yeah,
it's so neat. I just was like, at a certain point, I was like, I feel like I'm just playing like it's a D&D campaign that's been generated with like a random table, and I don't know. That just sort of like, I was like, I don't know, it got in my head.
Sure.
Yeah,
but I like it. I like the game.
Yeah, same. Don't regret trying it, but
no,
definitely had a few just kind of hang-ups on my end.
Sure.
And I think I'll reapproach it honestly at some point with like just a different frame of mind.
I fully intend to. I still have it installed. I'm not done with that game yet.
Cool. We're gonna start the cycle back over. Get bring the second game to the table.
Sure.
Great, Brian. What was number 2? If Metroid Dread was number 1, you gotta have a number 2.
I don't know if this counts, but I know we did it for Game Club. I think the Control remake was my second favorite game I played this year.
Great.
So good.
I didn't know that game existed, and then when it came out as a remake and I played it, I was so pumped. I've never experienced a game like that well before. That moment where you go through that maze, I still get like chills about.
It's like one of my best favorite moments in any video game is going through the ashtray maze.
I found that
top
song
5 moment for sure.
I found that song on Apple Music, and if I need to get like,
you gotta send me that.
If I need to get hyped for like a day of work or something like that on my ride to work, I will put that on, and it's 7 minutes long, and it gets me hyped for the day. So I think
nice.
That combined with just the best feeling telekinesis I've ever had in a game,
yes,
and a setting and story that I really jived with, I think Control was my second favorite game I played last year.
Yeah, oh, that's great. Yeah, I'm really glad that we talked about it. I also had kind of been sleeping on it until we decided to play it for Friend Zone. So yeah, I was super excited. I still haven't gone back and played any of the DLCs, which I know Kevin has talked about.
I mean, if you're gonna play Alan Wake and stuff, you might as well play the DLCs and play the AWE DLC that Alan Wake appears in and all of that kind of good stuff.
Yeah.
At least watch a YouTube video of the story.
Sure.
That's going to be probably relevant for Alan Wake 2 at least.
Oh, definitely.
I will give a special shout out to Valheim, not Valheim, Tribes of Midgard. I will give a special shout out to Tribes of Midgard because we sunk a little bit of time into that, and that was kind of fun.
Yeah,
it was fun. I had a good time playing that.
Yeah, good time.
Man, that was a game I had. It was a very imperfect game that I sunk more time into than I thought I would because it was fun.
A game that I played probably a little bit too much this year was Knockout City.
I was gonna say when I was scrolling through games last year, I was like, "Oh, Knockout City did come out in May."
Yeah.
I mean, I remember we picked it up right when it first came out because I think it was
free weekend.
Free at first, yeah.
I think they gave it away on PlayStation for free again. So
yeah,
if you grabbed it, everybody should have it still.
And I know we played it for like the first weekend, but then I continued to play it afterwards, and I think it's just good.
Yeah, I mean that's another one. Like, dude, if you ever want to play it, hit me up. I'll play it.
Yeah, I will too, because it's just a great hang out and chat and throw balls at people.
I mean, that first weekend we spent like half the time we spent playing it was just hanging out in the hub, throwing balls at each other and talking.
Hours.
And it was so fun. And just like dicking around with throwing the balls at each other and stuff. And it was so fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely an honorable mention there.
Yes. So I think those are my overall favorite games of the year, or those 4 games.
Great. Kevin, you got your
sure. I feel like I've given a lot of asterisks. I kind of named 3 games on my last one.
No problem.
This one also has an asterisk. Up there for me is Valheim. Brian missaid it, but I will actually say it. I like Valheim. I can't wait till it's a complete game. I can't really even count it as having come out this year because it's not a complete game yet. But oh boy, I cannot wait till that game is done. I think that's going to be a super fun one when it has like a full, all the bosses and all the areas implemented and everything. Man, great game. And yeah, I mean, Brian, echoing Brian, the Control remake is probably up there for me as well.
Yeah, I mean, even with the big update that came out a couple months ago for Valheim, like I'm always down to spend some time in Valheim, and I really liked I even picked that up again with George's crew when they picked it up, and so bringing my character progression over was nice. And then helping them through kind of the first stuff until we get to the mountain region or whatever, and there's more regions to come, and finally getting to explore the plains.
I've decided that I'm not going to play that game again until it is done, and then I want to go in and start fresh when it's finished. I want to play the complete version of that game.
Yeah, count me in.
It'll probably be years away, but I want to wait those years and go in with fresh eyes, and I can't wait.
Very good.
Except I can wait because I'm making myself wait. So there's that.
Great. Patrick, you got your number 2?
Yeah, I think my number 2 is Back 4 Blood.
Nice.
Yeah, I already talked about it a little bit, but yeah, it just did exactly what I wanted to do, what I wanted it to do. I really liked the card system. I thought it really, especially once you unlocked more cards, you really could change your play style
Yeah.
and like
it ended up being more impactful than it felt like it would be, like from playing the beta and stuff. That was a nice
yeah. And I feel like people who were critical of like the cards system like just didn't get far enough into it to like see how different it could be.
Yeah.
Because like I mainly played Doc, and like by the time we were kind of done playing it, like my healer deck was just like super good. I could just res people super fast. The amount I could heal was crazy. I could like
AoE heal,
give pills to somebody that would like give everyone else health. Like it was just like.
Well, I think it's so brilliant because in a game like that where you only have 5 different sort of like story like levels or something, right?
Yeah.
There's only a set amount of like you need something to increase replayability. I think the deck is totally gives that replayability because you're like, oh, I want to play my healer deck today, but next time I play, I want to play this stab bunch
build or
deck. Yeah, exactly. And I think it does so much to change the game, how you play the game, that it is so good for a game that only has limited replayability, like a Left 4 Dead or Back 4 Blood type game. That's brilliant.
Yeah,
that was a brilliant move.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even then, there's quite a few levels. Like I think there's there's more than I was expecting. Even
me too. I was actually there were more levels in that game than I expected. There's quite a lot. It took an actual pretty good amount of time to get through them all.
Yeah, when we would like sit down for like a 2-hour post dinner like session, it was like, oh wow, we get through an act and be done, and it was like, oh
yeah,
and like you felt like you just did the slog because some of those acts get really hard, the difficulty cranks up, and
I think and we've only gone through the whole thing like once, pretty much.
I'm curious how the tree of playstyles gets truncated when you crank up difficulty, which is something I didn't really experience because I want to see I can run around with my LMG build probably ineffectively, although there are difficulty checks throughout the other acts, but I'm curious how playstyle has to change when it gets harder.
I know like early meta was just like to run through the level as fast as you could on higher difficulties, but I think they've like adjusted some things through patches, so that's like a little less viable now. So you do have to be a bit more like, clearly they're intending you to kind of go in with like a traditional sort of like role playing party, right? Like they want a damage dealer, a healer, a tank, and like a specialist. That's kind of what that's what it feels like they're nudging you to do.
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my number 2. Had a lot of fun with that. I'm gonna have some more fun with that. Hopefully, I really obviously, it's not perfect. I think it's such a mistake to not include the PvP version that everyone was hoping would be in there. Yes.
Speaking of
the PvP is not good.
It's not. It's odd. Yeah.
That's disappointing.
Is great, but the PvP
I hope they can bring that in at some point with like an update. I don't know how difficult that is on their end, but I hope that is a thing they can do down the line.
We talk about a way to increase replayability is just, hey, what if the zombies on the other end were played by another person or a team of people? Like
I know it seemed like the framework was already there. Like just do the normal single player missions, but they have controllable zombies and everything. I feel like they have all the pieces, so
I
wouldn't be surprised
why they chose to do what they did. Like I don't understand.
Maybe just time. That's the only thing I could think of. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that functionality added into the game later.
I mean, the existing
and I think that would be huge.
The existing PvP build feels like something you would do. Feels like an unpolished version of some weird PvP that they were experimenting with, and then just to put PvP into the game, they launched with it. And then, but they're still trying to get,
it's like an arena mode. Like, are you kidding me? Like, what is it, 2006? And this is like Gears of War.
Unreal 5.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no. You guys, like, you already have something is like a winning thing, and you just intentionally didn't include it, either because it wasn't ready yet or because you just made a really dumb decision. But either way, I hope that that's something that comes, because if it does, I think that'll really I think people will be a little less harsh on the game. It'll bring back a lot of players, and
absolutely, yeah.
That's great. Yeah, glad Back 4 Blood got up there because I really enjoyed our time with it. And then my number 2 that I think you guys have heard me talk about it before. The Medium came out in January of last year. It's more than just the Xbox gimmick that they can have 2 parallel worlds up and running at the same time, which is awesome. It's a short, 8 to 10 hour game, which is broken up into like 2 or 3 acts. It's got the right amount of creepies. It's got a really good story. It's got kind of that new mechanic of, again, trying to exist in 2 worlds at once and figure out the puzzles that as you kind of interplay between worlds. It launched on PS5 in like September of last year, so it wasn't. So the timed exclusive was over. I like Bloober Team, and they make good, they make good horror games, Layers of Fear, and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I just enjoyed the crap out of that game, and I think a lot of people, especially in this crew, would like the horror vibes in the game. I think.
Yeah, I still want to play that one. Especially with your endorsement, I'll probably give it another look and maybe reprioritize.
Yeah, I think it's on Game Pass.
It's on Game Pass. Yeah,
it is.
Cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's more than just the Xbox gimmick. It's got a really cool story, and it's very creepy, and the environments are really good in it. So yeah, I enjoyed the crap out of that, and instantly jumped to like the top of my list in January of last year. So yeah, I enjoyed the crap out of the Medium.
Nice.
Did we want to, Kevin? Did you said you wanted to kind of have like that early access, pick an early access game?
I already kind of cheated and did Valheim, but
yeah.
but there are a lot of early access games. So I guess if you guys have any that you've got your eye on, I'd love to hear about them.
Yeah, shout out to The Raft.
Ooh,
Raft is great
on PC.
Love more. God, we kind of just dropped that one. We still have a lot more of that game. Yeah.
I haven't touched Baldur's Gate because it's still in early access.
It's another one I'm just waiting for it to be done.
Yeah. Well, especially since it's like the game clearly has like several acts, and the early access is just the first act or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're still porting in characters.
Yeah, I just want to. That one especially. It's like, why did this even go on early? Well, maybe they needed to raise funds or something, but man, I want to play that game when it's done.
I guess the only one that I played that was still in beta or whatever is I played the Back 4 Blood beta, but then I played it again when it came out for real.
Right.
So
that one already fulfilled the prophecy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'll say Baldur's Gate 3. I'm waiting for that to come out. I haven't even purchased the first part, but I loved the previous Baldur's Gate games, and I think the storyline with the Illithids look really cool for this next one, so I'm really excited to play through that and get kind of a strong 5th edition vibe.
I've played like a good chunk of the first act of Baldur's Gate 3 because I'm not patient. And I think it's really great so far. It's it's exactly what you want from that game. I think it's like the perfect mix between like the old school Baldur's Gate and then some quality of life things that you get in like Divinity 2. So
yeah,
I haven't really looked at it. It's still an isometric dungeon-y color game.
It's like a modern take on it. It's kind of more Dragon Age-y from what I've seen. Like you can kind of, I don't know. I haven't played it, so I shouldn't talk.
Yeah, it's still turn-based, but yeah, it's a little less.
So it's not like Diablo.
No.
Okay.
It's not a looter. It's not a hack and slash. You have to really think through all your moves.
Yeah, and one of the marketing videos they talked about like the depth of like moving a box, you know, in front of a trap or something like that is like, which means like how many different systems are in this game to like actually fulfill the promise of like a D&D level of like interactability with the world around you and like blowing up statues to like fall on other people. Like, yeah, the promise is there.
There are instances where like I was like, I'm gonna try this, and it lets you do it, and I was just like,
Perfect.
oh my god,
that's amazing.
This is amazing. Yeah, and like there were like story moments early on that I tried different ways, and like they unfold completely differently. Like the promise is there. Like hopefully they can fulfill it throughout the entirety of the game.
Definitely looking forward for that
one. I'm googling like early access games as of December of last year. Shout out to Dwarf Romantic, which is like
that one.
It's like a $5 game, and it's just it should be on mobile. It seems kind of like a mobile game. But it's just like a tile placement game, and you're trying to slowly just build up a score as you put down like tiles that have forest and grasslands and plains, and then there's all these like random objectives that come up of like have your water be 16 tiles long, and then you're like, oh, how do I connect this water section to like this water section of my tile placement? But apparently it's an early access. I actually wanted to buy, like, it's $5, so I was like, I kind of wanted to like buy it for everybody for like Christmas. But
you know what, Casey? I lied. I did play this one.
You did play.
I saw you playing it and saw how cheap it was and decided to try it.
Oh yeah,
it's great.
Yeah,
it's great. It's not super deep or anything,
No.
but it's just like a good chill out game. Like you said, it kind of feels like a mobile game.
Yeah, in a good way of like.
Yeah.
Is this the sort of city builder one?
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of like you're placing tiles to build like countryside and stuff.
Okay, yeah, this is on my wish list. I've also seen this one.
Yeah, it's good. It's not like super huge but it's like a very tight, targeted little game. It is what it intends to be, and it's really cool.
Yeah, when I saw it, I was like, this looks like the perfect game. I could like blaze one up and then
it's
like zone
perfect for that.
To this game for like a couple hours.
Yes,
absolutely.
I have a shout out. I mean, it's not an early access, but definite shout out to Shadowverse Champions Battle, which is a Nintendo Switch game that takes the digital collectible card game Shadowverse and then sort of wraps it into this like JRPG. Like it lets you sort of live out your like Yu-Gi-Oh like fantasy, basically.
Yeah.
Where you're like a kid at school and you learn about this game called Shadowverse. It's like a collectible card game, and you run around the world collecting packs of cards and buying packs of like booster packs of cards, and then building your deck and playing other kids until gradually you start to go to like tournaments and then these really big, super championships and stuff. And it's, it doesn't do like anything particularly like it's not a revelation by any means, but man, it's just like it scratches a certain itch and it's a lot of fun, and the card game is surprisingly deep, so definitely recommend it on the Switch if you're looking for a card battler.
It's been on my Switch wish list ever since you wrecked it.
Your Switch wish list.
My Switch list.
It's
hard to say.
Switch list.
I know we've been going for a while here, but I did have one more quick question. You don't have to qualify it too much. Were there any games you guys were disappointed in this year that you had high hopes for?
Ooh.
Yes.
Brian, you got something?
Yeah. I was thinking. I played Outriders because people were playing Outriders, and I wanted to shoot them up. And like we said, Q1 was a little sparse, so I was like, I'll try Outriders because people are picking it up, and it was fine. But like, I'm not going to like play it again. Particularly like you play so long and you get to this point where they're like, hey, now there's all this other stuff you can do, and I was like, I don't want to do all that other stuff, and then I stopped playing.
Yep.
Yeah, just about.
So I'd say that's of all the games I played this year. I think maybe that was the biggest one. I was like, I probably could have waited for it to go on sale.
Yeah, Outriders it was fun, but yeah, I'd say it's a great game to pick up on sale for like $15 maybe is what I'd pay for Outriders.
Maybe 20, 25, something like that.
20 spare, yeah. It was fun. Like the shooting was fun and stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean that game is fun to play, and like its potential is huge.
Yes.
Yeah, it burns out pretty hard.
Yeah, I hope they keep working on it, and I don't know. It's also like it was weird because I think part of it was like this feels like a live service game. Oh, it's not.
Right.
This feels like it's trying to lift a lot from Destiny, but oh no, it's meant to be like a finite thing that you play and then you're done. At least as far as I could tell. So,
but then they wanted it to be like a live service game where it's like there's all these missions you can still do.
Yeah, there was
they're gonna be the same, but
there was still sort of like an end game, but it was almost like more Diablo-like almost. I don't know. It felt a little mishmash, which is kind of how a lot of parts of the game felt.
So I'd say that's my one.
Kev, you got one? I'm still scrolling through.
I've got one.
Right.
It pains me to say it, but mine is Deathloop.
Ooh, I was surprised Deathloop wasn't on our favorites list, but yeah.
Deathloop is one. It honestly could have gone. Part of the reason I wanted to do this category was because I wanted to talk about Deathloop.
Sure.
And why it's not on one of my favorite games to the year's shoutouts. And ultimately, I liked Deathloop. I had a great time playing it, and I ultimately I walked away unsatisfied and disappointed by Deathloop. I don't regret playing it. I would still recommend it to people as long as they know what they're getting into. But I feel like Deathloop didn't live up to the promise of what it was, or what it was sort of advertised as. I was incredibly disappointed when I found out there was only one solution. And that there was only one specific way, and that the game handholds you through the whole thing, and there's not really any way to get super creative with it. I just felt like there was so much unrealized potential with that game. That said, I think that like the art design is transcended. It has some of the best voice acting I've heard in a game like ever. For Colt and Juliana, and like so. Yeah. I think that's just I feel like it was so close, and I was disappointed by the unrealized potential I saw in Deathloop. Just my take.
No, I think I mean most of that frustration I think we all talked about a little bit of our frustration and let down in the friend zone episode, but
we did.
The in something that is supposed to be so open and so do whatever you want and figure out your own way through it, to have just an answer is pretty. And like playthrough I got through was with I got the good I got the bad ending or the non-complete ending, and so it was like like I did everything right, but it didn't. So
a lot of good things to say about it, but ultimately, man, I think of what could have been with Deathloop.
You got one, Patrick?
Yeah, I've got a few. I mean, Deathloop for the reasons we're sort of already talking about. I was disappointed with aspects of Inscription too.
Fair.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about Inscription at all.
I'm surprised that wasn't on anyone's favorite.
Me too.
Outriders, again, for similar reasons we discussed, so it was pretty disappointing. My big one. Another one is 9 Monstrum Nox. This is like a Neon Falcon game, so it's like YS and then numeral 9 Monstrum Nox. So it's a series. It's a long running series, and I've played like 3 or 4 out of the series, and I was looking forward to this one because it was coming to Switch and it looked like a fun like action role playing game for the Switch, and it just runs like dog shit. Even docked, it looks like ass, and the it's choppy, and it's just like so disappointing. I'm sure it's great on other platforms, but I'm not going to buy it again, just kind of out of
principle.
Yeah, out of principle. I'm just like, if you, and there's no reason it should run so poorly on the Switch. It's not like a graphically intense game at all.
Yeah.
But I think my biggest disappointment maybe is New World.
Yeah, that one. I
thought that's what I thought when Kevin posed this. I thought that was his. I thought that was his answer.
That was another one that I'm glad someone brought up.
Like it does so many things. Like it's so interesting, and it does a lot of things really well, and I think it's really cool. But man, I don't know. There's just like a certain point where that game just isn't very fun, and it doesn't really. The game doesn't know what it wants to be. It's trying a lot of interesting things, but it's almost like it's trying too many interesting things at once, and so it's not doing anything particularly well. And so it's like, is this are we supposed to focus on PvP, or are we supposed to focus on this like mystery story, like the in game and stuff? Like, what are we supposed to be doing?
Also, you get into like you learn a bit more about it, like some of the bugs and exploits that people have been able to pull off in that game are laughable.
Yeah.
And there's frankly no excuse for them.
No. And so I think that game, like as a base, I think it still has a lot of potential to like be something at some point with like, like sort of a loot 2.0, like Diablo 3. Like there's potential for like another version of this to come along, like a Realm Reborn style rebirth.
I think it needs it at this point if it's going to become anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like conceptually it does some interesting things, but it just does not succeed.
I've finally come up with my answer and a half. I also would not have finished Inscription was it not for Friend Zone and wanted to get through it so we could talk all the way through it. So yeah, I didn't know who the creator was, and so I had no history of like what they were known for making. And so when I went in thinking that I was getting horror Slay the Spire, and then it starts to unfold, while in some cool ways, it's just not the unfolding that I was expecting. So
yeah, and that we talked a lot about that in our discussion as well, I think, and I think there's a lot of valid things.
So the lighter one, which I think is probably fixed, but like still was disappointing at the time, was and something we haven't talked about yet. Pokemon Unite.
Okay.
I think the game, like the core game mechanics are kind of there. The limited roster really just like did it in.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I agree.
And I mean, it's still going. I should look at that and see who they've added to the game since we stopped playing. But that was one I had. I thought we were going to play that a lot more than we ended up doing.
Yeah.
Okay, here's my thing about Pokemon Unite. For a guy who doesn't play a MOBA, it got me to play a MOBA. But
great,
like when it comes to the roster, it's like I don't want to play Dwebble. You're gonna bring Dwebble into the party, like of all the different creatures that you could be, like your slow tank. You're gonna bring Dwebble or Cramorant. Like, come on, like don't like. Give us
the fan favorites.
We're the fan favorites.
Those fools didn't launch with Blastoise, so there's no saving them. I know Blastoise is in the game now,
but yeah, and like
so I feel like they missed a mark there.
And like just to launch with like an uneven roster, I thought was weird. Where it was like there's like 6 different like attackers, but only like 2 choices for tank or 2 choices for like
there were so few choices in each role. Like to have a role based game like that and then only give you like 2 choices in some of the roles, that was a bummer.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I wonder how many characters League had when it launched.
Yeah.
I should look that up.
Okay, I'm curious. I think it was pretty high. I think it was 30 or 40.
I think it was more than Unite had. But...
Oh yeah. Yeah, easily. Well, great. Do we want to talk about games we're excited for in 22 as the kind of like the final goodbye?
Sure.
Great. Brian, is there most anticipated 22 game?
Yes.
Great.
One most quickly is Horizon Forbidden West.
Nice. Okay.
I love I played the first one over the pandemic because I didn't play it when it launched, and I fell in love with it. And when they announced the second one with the PS5, I was like, "Oh, I'm getting a PS5 now." And then, like I said before, they didn't talk about it for 2 years. But it should come out this year. I think it comes out like next month or soon thereafter.
Yeah.
Next month.
And I am going to get it for my birthday, and it's gonna be great.
Great.
Yep. I already mentioned Elden Ring.
Yep.
Everybody's excited for Elden Ring. The world needs Elden Ring.
Hashtag get hype.
If you're not, you're wrong.
Yep.
I'm sure I would be hyped if I don't know what that is. So
it's the new From Software game. It's basically Dark Souls Breath of the Wild with some more to it.
Oh,
Breath of the Dark Souls.
Yeah, that's enough for me to get hype about it. That's
great. Get hype. It's gonna be good. The early builds of it have already gotten some reviewers' hands, and they're just everybody is gushing about what they've seen so far. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, potentially looking at Friend Zone. It comes out late February, right? So we'll probably play.
Yeah, like the 22nd, 23rd, something like that.
We'll probably play it March. Say that it's our March game. Take some time with it.
Sure, man. I'm going to be playing it anyway. So if you want to talk about it, I'm sure I'll be game.
Right. Patrick, you got a most anticipated 2022?
Yeah, I mean, definitely Elden Ring. It's so hard to not be excited for that game. I can't wait. But outside of that, I really hope we get some new info soon on Final Fantasy 16.
Yes, please.
I'm a big Final Fantasy fanboy, so I really just want to see, especially knowing who's in charge of it, and I really am looking forward to that. And then I'm also like a huge Chrono Cross fanboy. That's my favorite RPG, and there's been rumors that there's going to be a remaster.
Oh, really? Shit. That'd be amazing.
And I'm trying not to get too excited because it may not be true, but fuck, if it is, that's definitely top of my list that I'm excited for. I love that game.
Yeah, man, I hadn't heard about that. That's very exciking. I'm
they're supposed to maybe announce it at Game Awards, and it didn't happen. So everyone's like, "What's going on?" And then the guy, the composer, Yasunori Mitsuda, he said that like his project's going to be announced sometime in February. So there's still hope, but it could be like another Xenoblade or something.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I hope that the hype is correct, but I'm skeptical that we see Final Fantasy 16 this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we probably won't.
Right now, they're still saying this year, but I
would be really surprised.
Yeah,
but in the event they've been like working on it longer than we thought or something, I don't know. Then I'm
fingers
really
crossed.
Looking forward to it.
As long as they release it when it's done, which I know. Again, I have Yoshi P does it right, so.
Yeah, and then Halo Infinite co-op. Woohoo! Looking forward to that.
Woohoo! Yeah. That was gonna be one of my shoutouts. Game I'm looking forward to most this year, I think it's gonna be this year, is God of War Ragnarok. The first God of War, God of War 2018 was amazing. So getting a sequel to that and seeing what they do with the story and feeling what the axe feels like on a PlayStation 5 controller with freaking DualSense and rumbles and all that. It's going to be great.
Oh, it's going to be magical. It's going to be spectacular. I'm so excited too.
Yeah, very excited for that.
I just started playing through that God of War. I just like this week actually, because I decided I'd been wanting to play it for a while, and I finally decided to start playing it. It's great, and I'm already excited for the next one, even as I'm playing through this one.
Yeah.
And Thick Thor. Thick Thor's great.
Oh yeah.
I have a Halloween costume, like already geared up for it. So it's gonna be great.
Yeah, should be good. And then Long Shot, I don't know that we'll get. I think because the studio backed out and the game's indefinitely delayed, but. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 I've been waiting for several years.
Me too.
Yeah.
But that could be potentially that could wallow in the darkness for quite some time.
I'm worried it's going to development hell, or I'm worried it's just going to come out and be bad.
Yeah,
that's like my biggest worry.
That
is
would
that,
actually,
like,
yeah.
all the development troubles. Like that's my worst fear for the game is that it's just going to come out and be like not very good.
Yeah, the first one was amazing for the time, and like
the first one was a very formative game for me too. Like, man, I had a lot of hours in the first Vampire the Masquerade back in the day.
Yeah. So.
Oh god, yeah, I want that sequel so bad.
Yeah.
Where is it?
I can't wish it into existence hard enough. So, that's the one I'm crossing fingers. But
everybody wish harder for that one.
Yes. And, eventually it'll. And if it isn't coming out, you're not wishing hard enough. So.
Yeah, it's your fault, and I blame you for
it. Well, cool. Thank you for talking 2021 with me, everyone. Hopefully we get this into a more annualized. I liked kind of breaking down the entire year and
it was good.
Talking about which games we liked, even if we didn't have Friend Zone episodes, just giving someone time to talk about a game that they enjoyed last year and games we're looking forward to talking about in the future. So thank you all.
Yeah, love this chat. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Yep. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for watching. As always, I hope you enjoy this content. If you do, follow, like, and subscribe to me on YouTube and Twitch so you can see more great content like this. I'll have links down below in the description. Thanks again. I hope you have a super day. I hope you have a super year. And I hope you have a super day. Bye.